Any tragic event caused by a natural phenomenon as opposed to a human-caused one that results in significant human casualties or the devastation of the environment, private property, or public infrastructure is referred to as a natural disaster. A natural disaster can result from weather and climatic changes as well as from earthquakes, landslides, and other occurrences that start on Earth's surface or deep beneath the globe. Natural disasters can strike anywhere on Earth. However, some disasters are more common or limited to certain geographical areas. And 2015 saw a massive earthquake that just shook up a whole country, Nepal. Many of us certainly remember, but today we will go back and see some more details that happened during the earthquake, or let's say after the earthquake there. So, without further ado, let's start. Nestled within the mighty Himalayan range, Nepal had always been a land of pristine beauty and raw natural wonders. But in the year 2015, the very foundations of this breathtaking land shook violently, unleashing a devastating earthquake of unparalleled magnitude. The once majestic mountains now stood fractured and shattered, with debris and rubble scattered across the once verdant valleys. The streets, once bustling with life, were now eerily quiet, with only the sound of wailing survivors piercing the air. The quake had taken a toll not just on the physical structures, but also on the hearts and minds of the people, leaving them shattered and vulnerable. The country's resilience and determination to rebuild their lives and restore their beloved land, however, shone bright amidst the chaos and destruction, a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. The Gorkha earthquake of 2015 is an event that took place on April the 25th, 2015, Kathmandu, Nepal. The epicenter of the earthquake was located in the Barpak village, situated in the Gorkha district, and the majority of the destruction was focused towards the eastern region of the epicenter. The earthquake was of a significant magnitude, resulting in widespread damage and loss of life throughout the affected region. According to the National Seismological Center, 480 aftershocks of local magnitude 4 or above were recorded. It is to be mentioned that such incidents underscore the importance of proactive disaster preparedness and response measures to mitigate the impact of natural disasters, particularly in vulnerable areas. The Nepal Bihar earthquake of 1934 was a catastrophic event that inflicted significant damage and casualties in the region. However, the earthquake that struck Nepal on an April day in 2015 was even deadlier and more destructive. This seismic event, which was the deadliest natural disaster to hit Nepal, resulted in widespread devastation and loss of life, leaving a lasting impact on the affected communities. Multiple sources, including scholarly studies and media reports, confirm the severity of the earthquake and the scale of its consequences. Despite this majestic beauty, the Himalayan region is prone to natural disasters, specifically powerful earthquakes that are generated by the same fault system that caused the uplift of the mountains. These earthquakes have the potential to cause catastrophic damage and loss of life in the densely populated regions of northern India and southern Nepal. The collision between the Indian and Eurasian plates continues to this day, resulting in ongoing deformation and seismic activity in the region. This process, known as orogeny, has led to the creation of the highest mountain range in the world, with Mount Everest being the highest peak, towering at 8,848 meters. The United States Geological Survey has attributed the occurrence of the earthquake to an abrupt thrust, which resulted in the sudden release of tension along the primary fault line. This fault line is located in the region where the Indian plate, which is responsible for bearing India, is gradually sinking into the Eurasian plate, which carries a significant portion of Europe and Asia. The seismic event was characterized by rapid and intense shaking that lasted for approximately 30 seconds, causing extensive damage to the city of Kathmandu. Notably, Kathmandu is situated on a block of crust that spans approximately 120 kilometers in width and 60 kilometers in length. The earthquake resulted in a significant shift of this block of crust, moving it approximately 3 meters to the south. The earthquake's intensity and magnitude were likely influenced by a variety of factors, including the depth and location of the fault line and the geographical properties of the surrounding rock formations. The USGS's findings provide invaluable insight into the complex mechanisms that underpin earthquake activity, which can inform efforts to mitigate the risks associated with these events in the future. This devastation outlines the seismic events that occurred in Nepal, particularly the aftershocks that followed the main earthquake on the 25th of April 2015. The aftershocks commenced immediately after the main earthquake and were noted to occur at intervals of 15 to 30 minutes. Within 34 minutes of the initial earthquake, one of the aftershocks reached 6.6 MW, indicating the severity of the seismic activity. On April 26, 2015, at 12:54 NST, the region was struck by another powerful aftershock of magnitude 6.9 MW, with the epicenter located 17 kilometers south of Corderi, Nepal. This aftershock was felt in several locations in northern India, including Kolkata, Siliguri, Jalpaiguri, and Assam, causing further avalanches on Mount Everest. Moreover, the Koshi Highway between Behadetta and Mulghat was blocked by a landslide that was introduced by the aftershock. Let us tell you, the occurrence of aftershocks is a common phenomenon following a large earthquake, and they can continue for days, weeks, or even months after the initial event. The aftershocks may also be more intense than the initial earthquake, as seen in this case, where one of the aftershocks reached 6.6 MW within a short period. The severity of these aftershocks indicates the potential for further damage and highlights the need for preparedness measures and disaster management strategies to mitigate the impact of future earthquakes. Additionally, the effects of these aftershocks can extend beyond the seismic region and impact areas far from the epicenter, as evidenced by the closure of the Koshi Highway due to the landslide brought on by the aftershock, disrupting transportation and causing further economic losses. Now, back to the day of the earthquake. The Gorkha earthquake was particularly devastating due to its shallow depth, which led to greater ground acceleration and intensity. The ground shaking was further amplified by the soft soils present in Kathmandu Valley, which resulted in widespread damage to the city's infrastructure and buildings. Researchers got an update after the 2015 Gorkha earthquake. 2 locations near the fault where the rock types changed ruptured first, then ceased, according to seismic data from the earthquake. This was a massive earthquake with a magnitude of 7.8, hit central Nepal, and the largest aftershock of the Gorkha's seismic sequence with a magnitude of 7.3 on May 12, 2015. The combined effect of these 4 significant earthquakes in central Nepal was responsible for the widespread damage caused by the Gorkha earthquake. The disaster resulted in a staggering toll of 8,790 fatalities and 22,300 injuries, and affected the lives of 8 million people across 31 out of the 75 districts in Nepal. Around 600,000 buildings in Kathmandu and other adjacent towns were either damaged or destroyed, along with about 9,000 fatalities and tens of thousands of injuries. The majority of the Ganges River plain in northern India, northwestern Bangladesh, the southern regions of the Tibetan Plateau, and western Bhutan were all affected by the earthquake. The epicenter of the earthquake was 9.3 miles underground, around 20 miles east-southeast of Lamjung, and 48 miles northwest of Kathmandu. Following the early morning earthquake, initial reports of casualties put the death toll in the hundreds. However, as the day went on, reports indicated that the total number of fatalities had surpassed 1,000 and was getting close to 1,900 by the end of the day. Rescue teams had arrived in all of the isolated communities in the seismic zone 2 weeks after the major quake, by which time it was clearer how many people had been killed. A total of 9,000 verified fatalities, 16,800 confirmed injuries, and 2.8 million confirmed displaced persons were all caused by the earthquake. More than 8 million people, or more than 1/4 of Nepal's population, were reportedly impacted by the incident and its aftermath, according to a United Nations assessment. The Mount Everest avalanche, which occurred as a consequence of the devastating earthquake, is regarded as the most lethal incident to have ever occurred on the mountain, causing the unfortunate demise of 22 individuals. This catastrophe marks a tragic event in the recorded history of the mountain and is considered a significant blow to the mountaineering community. Additionally, the Langtang Valley, located in the vicinity of the earthquake's epicenter, bore the brunt of yet another colossal avalanche, resulting in the disappearance of approximately 250 individuals. The aftermath of the Gorkha earthquake saw a massive humanitarian effort, with relief and aid pouring in from various countries and organizations. The Nepalese government, along with international aid agencies, worked tirelessly to provide shelter, food, and medical aid to those affected by the disaster. The Gorkha earthquake of 2015 had far-reaching impacts on both physical infrastructure and life support systems in Nepal. In addition to the loss of human lives and injuries sustained by survivors, the earthquake damaged a range of building structures and critical infrastructure systems, including road networks, hydropower schemes, and water delivery systems. The impact of these damages were particularly significant in urban areas, where buildings and infrastructure were already under significant pressure due to population growth and urbanization. The National Planning Commission of Nepal's post-disaster need assessment provides a comprehensive overview of the economic impact of the Gorkha earthquake. According to this assessment, the earthquake caused an overall loss of $7 billion, equivalent to approximately 1/3 of Nepal's gross domestic product at the time. The response to the disaster was immediate, with local and international agencies working together to provide emergency assistance to those affected. The relief efforts focused on providing medical assistance, shelter, food and water to the affected populations. The recovery process, however, has been slow, with many challenges including logistical, financial and political hurdles. Despite the challenges, the affected communities have shown remarkable resilience, with efforts focused on rebuilding and restoring the region to its former state. The recovery efforts following the Gorkha earthquake were aimed at addressing the damage to physical infrastructure and life support systems, as well as addressing the social and economic impacts of the disaster. However, the recovery process has been slow and challenging due to various factors, including administrative challenges, funding constraints, and technical difficulties. As such, the Gorkha earthquake remains a significant challenge for Nepal, highlighting the need for ongoing efforts to improve disaster preparedness, response, and recovery. In the aftermath of the earthquake, the Nepalese government identified 14 districts out of a total 75 as areas of crisis. Research that has been conducted focusing on analysing the impact of the earthquake on residential buildings and heritage structures. Their studies have shed light on the various aspects of seismic performance and the challenges that must be overcome to enhance the resilience of structures against earthquakes. Their findings have been instrumental in providing valuable insights into the assessment and improvement of seismic design codes and construction practices in Nepal. The catastrophic earthquake that struck Nepal caused extensive damage to the nation, resulting in the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Nepalese, as well as the destruction of entire villages. Several UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Kathmandu Valley were also affected, including the Budhanath Stupa, the Swayambuna Stupa, Changu Narayan Temple, Patan Durbar Square, and Bhaktapur Durbar Square. The earthquake highlighted the vulnerabilities of Nepal's geology, urbanization, and architecture, as warned by geophysicists and scientists over the years. The earthquake's aftermath has been a significant area of research for geophysicists and earthquake experts, with extensive studies carried out to understand the complex geological processes that contributed to the disaster. Nepal's unique location in the Himalayan belt, characterized by the collision of the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates, make it a high-risk region for seismic activity. Moreover, rapid urbanization and the construction of poorly designed buildings have exacerbated the impact of earthquakes in Nepal. Despite the challenges posed by the country's susceptibility to earthquakes, efforts have been made to improve disaster preparedness and response. The Nepalese government has taken steps to enhance earthquake-resistant construction and retrofitting of existing buildings. In addition, research into earthquake prediction and early warning systems has also received attention, aiming at reducing the loss of life and property caused by earthquakes in Nepal. Though the disaster resulted in extensive damage to infrastructure, loss of life and displacement of people, however, the tragedy has also spurred a concerted effort to enhance disaster preparedness and response, with a focus on earthquake-resistant construction, retrofitting of existing buildings, and early warning systems. Many studies have provided an overview of the damage and casualties caused by the earthquake. This information has been crucial in assessing the severity of the impact and the extent of the damage. The The data presented in those studies has also served as a basis for identifying the areas that require immediate attention and prioritizing the allocation of resources to aid recovery efforts. The earthquake was characterized by low-frequency ground motion, which may have contributed to its destructive force. Despite occurring in a heavily populated region, the impact was less severe in the capital city of Kathmandu, where fewer people were working outside in rural areas at the time of the quake. This resulted in fewer fatalities and injuries in the city compared to the surrounding areas. However, the scale of the disaster in the affected regions outside Kathmandu was overwhelming, with thousands of people losing their lives, many more being injured, and significant damages to infrastructure and property. Moreover, the Nepal earthquake of 2015 was a catastrophic event that resulted in significant loss of life and property. Despite occurring in a region prone to seismic activity, the severity of the disaster was unprecedented, with its impact being felt beyond the borders of Nepal. The disaster highlighted the need for preparedness and resilience in the face of natural disasters and the importance of coordinated and sustained efforts to mitigate their impact on vulnerable populations. The aftermath of the earthquake prompted the launch of Operation Sankat Mokan, which mobilized volunteers from various parts of the country and transported nearly 90% of the Nepalese army's personnel to the affected districts. The rescue operations were further complicated by adverse weather conditions, as well as subsequent earthquakes, which raised concerns about potential side effects such as landslides and building collapses. Furthermore, the rescue efforts were significantly hampered by the destruction of critical infrastructure such as roads and communication equipment. Despite these challenges, survivors were found in the affected areas up to 1 week after the earthquake. In the context of disaster management, crisis mapping refers to the practice of collecting and synthesizing information from a variety of sources in order to map and analyze the extent of a crisis and inform relief efforts. During the 2015 earthquake in Nepal, crisis mapping was effectively utilized by volunteers to coordinate emergency aid efforts. One such organization was Kathmandu Living Labs, which collaborated with international crisis mapping and humanitarian organizations to leverage local expertise on the ground. This involved crowd mapping, which entailed mobilizing public volunteers from all around the world to contribute information to internet maps. Such data sources included social media satellite images, drone footage of open roads, collapsed houses, and individuals who were stranded, homeless, or malnourished, as well as messages and contact information from people eager to assist. By integrating and visualizing this information, crisis mapping helped to create a more comprehensive and accurate picture of the situation on the ground, which in turn facilitated the delivery of aid and support to those in need. The immense scale of the disaster serves as a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of natural calamities and highlights the necessity of robust emergency response systems to mitigate the impact of such occurrences. The widespread loss of life and devastation that accompanied these avalanches represent a significant challenge for the rescue and relief workers who endeavor to bring succor to those affected by the catastrophe. Remember, the raw power of nature can be both breathtakingly beautiful and utterly terrifying, capable of creating awe-inspiring landscapes and bringing entire communities to their knees. It is crucial, then, that we take all possible precautions to prevent natural disasters from wreaking havoc on our lives and our environment. From reinforcing buildings and infrastructure against earthquakes and floods, to planting trees and practicing sustainable land management to prevent wildfires, to monitoring weather patterns and issuing timely warnings for hurricanes and tornadoes, there are countless ways in which we can work together to mitigate the risk of natural disasters. By taking proactive steps to protect ourselves and our planet, we can harness the incredible potential of nature without falling victim to its most destructive forces. The aftermath of this tumultuous earthquakes illuminates the dire importance of swift and proficient disaster management measures as a means to alleviate the ramifications of potential seismic catastrophes and to ensure the preservation of the safety and prosperity of those who have been affected by these natural calamities. The indelible scars left behind by these seismic tremors serve as a stark reminder of the significance of disaster preparedness and the crucial role that proactive planning and mitigation strategies play in mitigating the impact of unforeseen crises. Only through timely and effective disaster management can we hope to minimize the devastation wrought by these unpredictable events and safeguard the welfare of our fellow human beings in times of peril. And that's all for now. We hope you found our videos informative and thought-provoking. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update from us. And remember, disasters can happen to anyone, but by coming together and sharing knowledge, we can build a safer and more resilient future. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.